Hi kittens, and welcome back to Cat Talks. Today I'm going to be talking about what you need to know before starting Authortube or Booktube, or an alternate title, why YouTubers quit. Alright, so the first big reason that Authortubers and YouTubers in general and Booktubers quit is the people. So first of all, there's the obvious. There's the hate, there's the bullies, there's hate comments, there's people calling you fat or dumb or stupid or ugly, and they come at you from all kind of like different angles, and that's obviously really hard to deal with. Even for very well-adjusted people, dealing with that kind of negative, targeted hate can be really difficult, and that's why the trolls do it. They want to get a reaction and they want to prove that they are powerful in some way, even if they're not powerful necessarily in their day-to-day lives. And now I'm going to get loads of comments about how ugly I am. Yay! But there is another side to this, and this is call-out culture. So call-out culture and cancel culture is kind of hopefully reaching its peak now, and hopefully we're on the decline. But this is the use of something you've said in the past, or a book you like, or something that you have done in a video that causes people to call you out as racist or sexist or homophobic. It could be anything, it could be nothing. You might not have meant the words the way that they came out, and you might not have, like, that might not be a belief you have. It also might be a belief you have, but the way that people respond to this is not by educating, it is by bullying and crushing people. Again, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but it is true, right? Like, cancel culture is another way of bullying, and just because you are in the right doesn't mean that it's an acceptable form of bullying, if that makes sense. Also, you're technically in the left, American politics. But yes, so a lot of this cancel culture, and even when it's directed at authors instead of YouTube personalities, this can really be a very negative experience for people who just kind of want to talk about books and want to talk about their lives, and they're kind of like, even if you're not targeted by this cancel culture, it is still a very negative place to be interacting with daily and to have all your friends enmeshed in. So it's really difficult for people to continue making content and continuing to be positive and uplifting when they're just seeing hate all over Twitter. Now, admittedly, it is mostly a Twitter thing, but it is a book community thing in general. So I think we all need to be really careful about kind of like the way that we react and consider whether our voices are really necessary to add to this discussion. On the other side of people, though, there is loneliness. So especially when you are first starting YouTube, you expect to have no subscribers and you expect to have no friends. But once you hit the 150 mark, you kind of get to know a couple of people, and then they might quit. Or there might not be a continuous interactions on your videos. You might only have 1 or 2 comments, and you might only have a couple of friends who are YouTubers in general, or who know that you do YouTube, and it can be really lonely. You can, like, the purpose of YouTube is to have a dialogue, right? I'm not making these for myself, although kind of am, I guess, but mostly I am making these for other people to see and to kind of like respond to and have discussions around. And a lot of the time your videos will only hit like 20 views, 2 comments, maybe 4 likes. That can be really, really tough. You often feel like you're on your own, especially during a slump where you're not really feeling that creative vibe. There is this cult of putting your best face forward on YouTube especially, and like pretending that everything is fine, that makes you feel like you're the only one that's suffering. And it can be really difficult to talk to people about it because they're like, well, you've only got 100, 200, 500 subscribers, like, why does it matter? And it's like, well, that's
kind of the point.
Often your viewers will have a very varied number of views, so you might be getting into a pattern where all of your videos have 50 views within, 5 days, let's say, and then suddenly you'll have 10 or 12, and it's like, what did I do wrong? What happened here? And often it's nothing that you've done, it's the algorithm, or it's just people's tastes have changed, or maybe you were feeling a bit down and people can sense that through the videos. And then because you were down in earlier videos, they haven't watched your later videos, and that obviously feeds through to the fact that like you've just been recovering, and then all of a sudden people aren't watching your videos anymore. That can really spiral your mental health, and it can really plunge you into a place of kind of like darkness and a place of feeling like you're not seen and you're not valid. Another point is that a lot of comments that you get are from other creators. Now, this isn't a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying don't comment on other people's posts, guys, but it does feel, especially if they're disingenuous, especially if they're all just great video, it feels very much like they just want you to watch their stuff, like a quid pro quo, and not that they're engaged in the content. Now, obviously, some of my comments are like that, and some of my comments from other creators are really great, and they've obviously watched the video, they're engaging, they're laughing at me usually. Which I'm completely fine with. Please laugh at me in the comments. Don't be mean about it though. But yeah, but that can also feel very much like you're not actually making an impact, that a lot of these comments are being left on your videos just to increase traffic to other people's vlogs, and that can feel very lonely. Like I said, it can feel very much like your voice isn't respected and you're just being used. There's something wrong with my finger and I don't know what it is. Really? place is noisy. On the topic of supporting others, obviously we want to encourage new people in the Booktube and the Authortube communities to share their opinions and I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, and to get involved, and we want to make sure that they're not feeling lonely, right? Like we want to kind of increase our circle, bring them into the fold, make sure that they feel welcomed and not alone. And so, you know, a lot of us will search for Booktube newbie tags or we'll search for new creators and leave comments and kind of foster a relationship there. But that can be really draining, honestly. You end up with this cycle of more and more videos to watch because you want to find new creators and you want to support the creators that you supported from the beginning, and you want to, you know, you still want to stay up to date on the more big Booktube channels because they're how you stay relevant and kind of see the trends coming and stuff like that. And it is so exhausting. I have something like 1,000 subscriptions because I subscribe to new Booktubers and Authortubers, like to make sure that I see their videos and to make sure at least that I see them and hopefully that I watch them, which are two very different things, obviously. But yeah, it can be so difficult and tiring, and you feel like you're never going to catch up with, it's like a TBR of videos. You're never going to catch up. You're constantly seeing more and more videos created and published, and unless you have the kind of job where you can put a YouTube video on and then kind of zone out, it's really difficult to stay on track and on target with watching all of these YouTube videos. And the minute that you feel like you're caught up, you add more people to watch because suddenly you have like an extra 5 minutes. It isn't a sustainable pattern, and I just want people to be aware that, you know, it's a reason to quit, right? Like it just sucks your energy out. And even when you're enjoying the content, even when you're enjoying watching all of these videos and it's all fresh content and engaging and funny and inspiring, it's still a lot of time, right? Like this video is probably going to be, what, 20 minutes? That's 20 minutes of your day I have stolen for myself. That is a lot of time. And if you're watching 5 or 6 channels, even if they're only posting like 10-minute videos, that's like an hour of your day just for YouTube. So it can feel very tiring, which is fine. It's part of being a YouTuber. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that this is one reason that people do quit, and it's something to be aware of and to like watch yourself for and make sure you're not feeling burnt out by the community and by all the efforts that you're putting in that you're maybe not seeing back. According to Inc.com, the top 3% of channels on YouTube have 90% of the traffic, which often means that your video doesn't get seen. The algorithm is super biased towards channels that have high numbers of subscribers and towards videos that have high numbers of views. This also means that oftentimes your video just isn't seen. Again, it's really concerning. It's definitely not a platform targeted to new people. It's definitely a platform targeted to promoting celebrities and reality TV. And there's a great video that you can watch up here, all about kind of like why that's happening and how that's happening. But in terms of the new creator, it often feels like you have been forgotten by YouTube. Continuing on with the energy theme from watching all of those videos and yet feeling alone, we also have the energy of like working a real job or studying full time and then coming home and then maybe working another job. Maybe you are kind of like have a family to bring up and you're like pouring energy into that. Maybe you're trying to get fit and so you're pouring energy into that. Or authors, especially you know, are writing a book, which is a second job in and of itself. And then you're adding a third job on top, which is YouTubing, and that's setting aside time to film, coming up with ideas, maybe scripting, definitely editing and uploading, thumbnails. Everything about YouTube is another job, right? Like it takes a lot of time to create a video, to edit it and upload it. Even if you're not scripting, even if you're barely editing, it can take a lot of time. And so what I'm saying is most people run out of energy and they just burn out, and that's completely normal and natural, but that is a big reason why YouTubers just don't have it in them anymore. I mean, YouTube is a hobby for most people. Most people are not making money from making these videos. And so if you have something that's taking up, let's say 10 hours a week, plus watching time, so maybe 20 hours a week minimum, watching and editing and filming time, on top of your job, you just run out of energy eventually, you run out of time, and so it can be really difficult when you're that exhausted to come up with new ideas and come up with the motivation to film and sit down and film. So yeah. This is also a big reason why a lot of YouTubers are younger people. It's because they don't necessarily have families to support, you know, young children to look after, babies to feed and care for. Oftentimes they're maybe in schools, they have a few more hours free, or editing software comes more naturally to them. I definitely recognize my own privilege here, being a computer programmer. Using software to edit videos is actually a lot easier for me and a lot more intuitive compared to people who maybe don't come from that kind of background. You also have things like a steady work schedule, which means that you get home at a steady time and then you know you have time to film on, say, a Monday, which some people working varied hours jobs do not necessarily have, and that can also be very tiring if you don't have a kind of routine. For example, I have a quote here. Or do I? So Jay Kristoff, who is obviously one of Booktube's darling authors, said that towards the end of his novels, he was working all day, coming home, changing clothes, scrubbing off my makeup. Oh, this is Amy Kaufman. Scrubbing off her makeup and writing until midnight. Like, that plus YouTube would be a lot of time. That would be working until 3 a.m. and then going to bed and then getting up and you know, going to work. And Jay Kristoff said, pretty much every day for 5 years, I'd come home from work, spend time with my wife, and then write until 2 a.m. Now, neither of these authors were doing YouTube on the side, and it can become very stressful when you're managing 2 or 3 jobs, even with just one job that's bringing in money, to make these videos and consistently, which is why bigger authortubers tend to be people who have taken time off to write full-time, because they have then the time for a hobby on the side that isn't necessarily going to bring in any money. Another thing is, again, related to energy, is things like illness, things like depression, pain, just in general. Like, I have a migraine, I can't do YouTube that day, and that can knock my schedule for weeks to come. Also, operations can obviously derail your life and mean that you can't necessarily find the time that week to film. And YouTube is really unforgiving. If you miss one upload, the algorithm will ignore you and people will forget you exist so fast, they drop you. It's really disconcerting and it's really hard when that happens, and it does happen. Sometimes people take a month off and they come back and they've still got like a strong subscriber base, but these are people that usually have over 100,000 subscribers when they take that month off. For the small creator, that month or that week or that episode can be so, you know, it can be such a setback, and it's such a big thing, like, to go back in time and to lose all of those subscribers, and you're essentially starting again, but you're starting again in a way that YouTube doesn't favor you. So new creators do get some YouTube algorithm allowance, but if you have created and taken a break and come back, especially a longer break like I took 2 years, the YouTube algorithm will pretend that you don't exist. Now, I'm not going to hide all of my old videos or start a new channel because I'm proud of some of those videos that I made. But I just want you to be aware that YouTube will treat you differently if you have older videos, a gap, and then newer videos. Yeah, so with this mindset that you can't miss an episode, oftentimes if you are forced to because of an accident or an operation or a health crisis, if you miss that episode, it often feels like it isn't worth continuing to film and continuing to upload because your schedule's gone and YouTube will no longer support you. And that can be really damaging to your psyche and, like, when you sit down, your motivation to make films. Related to that, one setback can be such a huge downer. So for example, I put a lot of energy and kind of like a lot of editing power into a video that got like 12 views total. That was heartbreaking, honestly. Like, I'd put so much of myself into it and I really loved it, and maybe it wasn't necessarily on brand, but I loved it, and it just got no views. And I understand, right? Like, I'm not saying that you guys are obligated to look at anything I work on ever. Unfortunately, your time is you and my time is me. If I create something, I can hope that you guys see it, I can advertise it, but in the end, you know, it might just not appeal to people, and that is fine. But it is such a huge setback for your motivation because it feels like you don't understand why people want to watch you, and maybe people don't like the real you, and so should you continue making videos? It's a nebulous process. On the heels of that are technical setbacks. So that's things like your camera stops working, or in my case, the reason that we're using this camera today, my SD card decided that it didn't want to be formatted anymore, so I lost all of my videos. Yay! And my ring light broke the same week, so it's going really well for me over here, guys. This is so frustrating because it completely knocks your schedule. Like, I lost the content on Wednesday night, which means that I'm filming this on Thursday, and I start my new job on Friday. That is a really tight deadline to get this filmed, edited, and uploaded before I start my new job, because I will not have the energy tomorrow to finish work and then film and then edit. Like, there's no way. Now, hopefully, I can get these files back. I've sent them to my boyfriend, who is a technical genius, but I'm not 100% sure I ever will see them again, and so my camera's down, and honestly, I didn't necessarily want to film this because obviously I meant to upload my wrap-up for September today, Friday, and I can't because that footage has been corrupted all through the month. I've been filming little bits here and there, and that's been corrupted, and now I can't use it, and that is, again, it's such a bummer. It makes me not want to do YouTube because it's so much energy and investment, and then nothing will come of those videos. Finally, we have time, and this is obviously closely related to energy. This is things like burnout where you just do not have the time. You have been burning the candle on both ends and maybe losing sleep, and now you just do not physically have the ability to continue making videos. We also have all of the time, like I said before, that is put into filming and editing, but this is separate, I think, to the effort that goes into filming and editing. Like, editing takes so long, especially if you do it well, which I do not do, and probably on this video won't do at all because I do not have the time, which is very on brand, on topic. But yeah, you have the time for organizing your videos, for organizing your edits, for like setting aside time in your schedule where your house will be quiet. And the biggest one of all, other than like, so you have research, obviously, which is preparing your videos in advance. Maybe if you want to get some quotes and stats, preparing those in advance as well. But then we also have the biggest one, which is especially true for Booktube, but is a little bit also true for Authortube, which is the time you spend reading. Like, even if you only read 5 books a month, that is a significantly larger time period devoted to preparing for a YouTube video and researching for a YouTube video, which is essentially what you're doing than most YouTube channels do, who, especially the vlogs and stuff like that. Like, we're an entertainment and vlog channel. We don't do scripts. We don't normally do scripts. We don't normally do politically charged videos.